Hello everyone, how are you all? Hope you've had a good Christmas and you're feeling recharged. We've got another celebration coming up, haven't we? New Year. So how are you all? Hello Nikki. Nikki, if you could just confirm that you can hear me and you can see me okay, or likewise anybody else that's in the house at the moment. Hello Kim, hello Dot. Hello, Samantha. It's very good to have you join us. I don't think you've been with us before, so I'm sure, well, I know everybody will always make you welcome. It's a really lovely group. So I'd love to hear if you're already a beader, what's your thing, and whereabouts you're from. Hello, Carol. I do, yes. I'm feeling so much better. Hope you are all too. So tonight we're going to go back to total basics for bead embroidery, so that for those of you that have done it already, perhaps you can put a note in the comments and say whether or not you've done bead embroidery, and also for the benefit of other people, because obviously in our other group, Beaders of Beads by Virchil, we do like to share in our crafty makes and crafty chat. Hello Carol. So we're going to strip back to basics. We're going to have a look at what are cabochons. So apologies if this is old hat for you, but I'll sort of go through it as if you're new to it. We're going to look as well at E6000 versus glue gun. Does a glue gun work? Well, I've hooked up my glue gun and I thought, well, what we'll do is we'll try it tonight so that we can see how it compares. Samantha says she's from Stoke. Well, a very big welcome. Hello, Linda. Kim, one of her favourite beading techniques. It's one of mine too. It really is. So, should we get stuck straight in? Let's go on the overhead and let's have a look at some samples. But the other thing we're going to do as well is we're going to look at basic techniques, what you stitch onto. We're only going to use size 10 seed beads tonight. Now all my size 10 seed beads are on my website. They're on special offer still, beadsbyvirchil.co.uk. if you want to combine it with any purchases from Facebook, just email me the colours that you want to add to your basket and I'll do it all manually for you. Okie dokie, so here we go. So we're not necessarily going to be, well, we're not working with a teardrop one. This is a teardrop shape. It's a hematite cabochon, and I'll explain what cabochons are in a moment. Hello, Sue. But we're going to be working with the size 10 seed beads. I just want to show you some other samples so that you can see what you can work with. Now, next week, we're going to start introducing different seed beads and also a little bit of peyote as well. But not tonight, we're just doing the basics. This one is a cat's eye cabochon. Now cabochons are beads without holes. They've got flat backs and you glue them. These are some earrings that I've got flat backs on. There's some Tree of Life cabochons available in the thread at the moment. This is one of them, again with a flat back with size 10 seed beads. This one has, we're going to look at delicas next week. What are they? What do they give to your piece? Delicas are rather gorgeous. And obviously this is another peyote and an oval hematite. You can also use this on rings as well. This is one of my teardrop turquoise howlite as well. There we go. And a lot of these are on my YouTube channel as well, some free tutorials. Hello Jackie, hello Meg. This is also in my YouTube channel as well. Now I've got some porcelain. I think a lot of the porcelain cabochons have gone, but if there is any left, those are what they look like. So, okay, let's push that to one side. Let's start with, what do we stitch onto? Well, we stitch onto something which is, it's like stiff. It's a stiff base. and it's like something you would thicken up in your sewing, and it stays where it is, so you don't remove it, but you do cut out obviously the excess that you don't use. Hello Maxine, lovely to have you. So that is actually on special offer at the moment, and it comes in 6x5 or 8x6 piece, I can't remember which, and it's on special offer right now. Okay, so we stitch directly onto that. The cabochons, now this one is a ruby in zoisite. Oh, I can't pronounce it. Ruby and zoisite, I think it's called. You can't really see it very well, but it's green and it's pink. It's a teardrop shape, and it's got a flat back to it, so the flat back goes against there. This is one of my porcelain cabochons, literally made of porcelain. Here's a couple of others that I found out of my demos box that I've never quite used. This is your, but they come in handy to reuse. This is a teardrop turquoise howlite cabochon. That's what it looks like in the ring. And also with the stitching, it makes it pop and it makes it bigger. That's a white porcelain cabochon. That is a hematite cabochon. Okay, so let's start off first of all. Should we do a bit of gluing? So here is my glue gun. Now I have to confess, I'm pretty sure I've used it before, but I can't remember what the outcome was. So I always recommend E6000, but I thought, you know what, a lot of people have got glue guns. So we spoke before, and I think it was Maxine that mentioned that you can get these rubber covers on your fingers to make sure you don't burn them. I think that's a fine idea. So I'm putting some of the glue gun on there. I'm guessing I should have put it on there a little bit quicker while it's warm, and turn it over and glue it in the middle of your foundation. So we will come back to that in a second. Now the one I'm going to demonstrate on tonight, we'll come back in a second and see how it's worked. Let's just turn that off. The one I'm going to use tonight is this ruby and zoisite. So I'm going to use E6000 plus. No, not E6000 plus. Don't use the E6000 plus because it's horrible. It's horrible for this project. It's too gooey and it takes ages to set. Just the E6000 on its own. So I use a little cocktail stick. Okay, it's 24 hours proper set, but it doesn't take long for it to set onto your beading foundation. So with your cocktail stick, just go around. Don't overfill it. I have got a little bit too much on there. I'd have a little plastic bag or something underneath so it doesn't mark your table. The reason why you don't want too much excess on there is because if it oozes out, then what happens is you actually glue the areas that you're going to stitch around. Okay, so we are just going to leave that to dry for a second. So let's talk you through threads. This is one of my favourites. It's a Mayuki thread, and also the, what's the other brand? KO. I love KO. I love Nymo as well. It's really cheap. It's a really good all-rounder. Sadly, I am out of Nymo at the moment, but I will be putting in another order. So I'm going to use the green Nymo tonight because I think it'll be easier for you to see. So it's probably better if you're working about 1 metre lengths. Work with what you can. But most of you that have done it will agree with me that it's gets stuck around everything, so it's better not to have it too long. So this is a size 10 beading needle. Again, I've got the beading needles available in the Facebook group, online as well, and the higher the needle number, the smaller the head of it. And so size 10 beading needles are ideal for size 10 seed beads, and they fit some size 15s as well. Now, if you're working with some branded size 15s, then you'll find that you'll need to go to a 12 needle to fit the beads. Now, I love working with a wax, okay? The reason, so these little grooves here, you just pop your thread in the grooves and pull it through. What it helps with, it helps to stop it from fraying. It also helps to stop it from coming out of your beading needle. Now, I'm going to confess, when I first started doing this and somebody said, right, okay, thread your needle, and I'm like, you are joking. You're absolutely joking. Honestly, it takes a bit of practice. But you do get there, and my top tip is to do it in broad daylight if you can, okay? It makes it so much easier. You can also squeeze the top as well with some pliers. So what we're going to do is create a knot on the bottom. So I've just looped it over, and I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3 times in and pull. Now, before we start, let's pop our bead mat on. So a bead mat is an essential so that you can pop your seed beads on there. Now, we're only going to be working with size 10 seed beads. These are the dark matte green. Let me just see if I can get the lighting a little bit better. That's a little bit better. These are silver lined purple, which I thought would really make the colour of the sort of pinky purple colour pop. And I've got these two as well, which is an AB green, all Czechoslovakian. They're all, I didn't want that many right now, but there you go. They're all £1 for 10 grams, normally £1.30 to £1.50, depending on which ones. Right, so that's good. That's all ready to work with. Let's have a look at this one. Right, it's okay, but I think I would potentially just use a glue gun if you're going to use peyote, which is what we're going to do next week, which is this one. Because I honestly don't think it's quite as strong, but it was a good, if you can see, it's not perfect, but it would be enough to keep it in place for doing, because peyote just basically secures your stone. Righty-ho, right, let's get going. We're going to start with the basics. Now the basics are, let's actually start. Where should we start? Let's start in the middle of one side. Now I'm just about 1 millimetre away from the cabochon. Now pull it through till it hits the knot at the back. And then I am going to add, I'm going to work in quantities of 4, and then I'm going to lay that around my cabochon, and at the end of the 4th bead I'm going to take a nosedive down. Apologies that I've got it upside down, it's just how it's easier for me to work. So we're going to turn that over and we're going to back stitch. So you're going to push your needle through the first stitch that you made. Now another top tip that I forget after the start of every demo is I would suggest you curve the corners, because your thread just gets stuck around any little pointed element. Okay. Now that it's at the top, we're going to push our needle through all of those 4. That's what we call reinforcing, and it helps to realign your beads. Now pull up slightly, and then we're going to add another 4. Now top tip, if you think you're not going to manage this because you've perhaps not got as good vision as you used to, don't worry. Use the tip of your needle, tap the beads. Don't strain your eyes, tap the beads. And then we're going to work around the contours of that. And we're going to take a nosedive down after that one. Just be careful that you don't split the thread. Now what splitting the thread means is when your needle literally goes through the centre of your thread, and it creates a real pain, it really does. So we're back stitching into the previous one and then pushing our needle back through those 4. I do love the colour of these beads, they're so beautiful. So Sue says, so we just carry on doing that until we get further up. She loves bead embroidery more than wire wrapping, but she's practicing. It all takes practice, but Sue, I thought that your wire wrapped ring, your rose ring, was really lovely, very neat, and you wouldn't have known you hadn't done it before. So I think that was really lovely, and the more you do it, the more confident you get with it as well. Now what I would suggest with bead embroidery is that you use branded seed beads. Now these are Czechoslovakian seed beads. There's other seed beads like Mayuki, like Toho. I work with all of them and I mix and match them all as well. Now with regards to the size of the beads, size 10 is a fairly average size to work with in bead embroidery. Now the higher the number, the smaller the bead, and vice versa. So next week we're going to have a look at size 15s. When do you use them? What would you use them for? And look at that sort of thing. We'll also look at delicas. What shape are delicas? What sort of effects do you get from delicas? I know a lot of you have covered all of this before, but what I'd really appreciate is, as we're going through, is tell me about what your favourite beads are for working with, either in jewellery making or bead embroidery. Which seed beads do you like, and have you got, are you on a favourite colour at the moment? I do find that my colour varies. I'm a lover of purple. I've got, you know, my colour palette sort of stays very similar, blues and purples, lilacs, but hopefully at some point this year I will sort of expand my range as well. I'm actually looking at doing some beading kits, making pen toppers with delicas. I've done my own beading pattern, and I'm really excited about it. Right, so when you get to the top, it's slightly different on a teardrop to the way it is on a round one. When you get to the top, just fit the number of beads that just take you to the point, and we're still back stitching. Now this is really a big part of the you know, basics of bead embroidery. It's not as complicated as perhaps it looks. So I'm just going to go round the corner on that. Now I generally work in 4s unless you're going round corners where you'd reduce the amount to fit. Now if you're not doing what we call peyote, which is the stitch we're going to look at next week, peyote is basically where you keep going so that it encases your cabochon. Right, so don't overfill it on this one, and it doesn't matter how many seed beads you add when you're not doing another row of peyote as I just showed you. So make sure it doesn't, you don't overload it. And then what we're going to do is we are going to reinforce by going all the way around all of those beads. What that actually does is it just helps to realign the beads. And I'd love to know how many of you as well are comfortable in doing your own sort of design. I've got lots of bead embroidery kits on my website. I'll show you a few samples of some of them. Once we finish, I'm going to take a nosedive down to the back and let's just have a quick look at your comments before we move on. There we go. And then if we turn it over, that's what it looks like at the back, but nobody sees the back, and if they are, they're looking too close, aren't they? So Linda loves wire working, but she does love bead embroidery. I think bead embroidery, it's so relaxing, and there's so many different things you can do with it once you've learnt the basics. There's so many different beads. So what I'd like to do sort of over the next couple of weeks is we'll just look at, you know, what other shape beads, what can we do with them. Hi Trisha, she's joined as well. Right, my notes keep disappearing, all my comments keep disappearing, so bear with. Samantha says that looks great. Thank you very much. We've got a few more rows to go yet. So Kim's done a few of her own designs, like the horse and the Easter bunny and Poppy. Kim, it's just so satisfying, isn't it? Thank you, Dot. Dot loves bead embroidery when doing a brick stitch. She loves bead embroidery when doing a brick stitch. She loves the Toho shaped little bricks. But love all the other seed beads. There's just so many beautiful things, isn't there? Carol is happy with bead embroidery until you say peyote, my nemesis. So we have to call it something different, Carol, don't we? Next week, call it something different so we don't get the brain overdrive. Now, this is what I love about the bead embroidery, is you can just make the colours pop in your cabochons. So I'm going to add another row. Again, it doesn't really matter where you start. I think we'll just go around the corner a little bit further down. So, which I wouldn't normally work further down, but because it's teardrop shape, I want to avoid starting here. I want to actually stitch around the corner at the end. It just makes it sit better. So as you can see, our needle comes about 1 millimetre out again, and then I am going to use the opaque. Now that's the other thing as well, is the seed beads, there's different finishes on seed beads. Now I don't know if you can see, this one is called opaque, and opaque is basically where you can't see through it and it's a solid colour. It's a solid block colour. The one we used before, which is AB, is slightly see-through and it's got like this Aurora Borealis coat on it. So, you know, don't worry about all the different names, you just learn it as you go. But it's good to have a little bit of knowledge to help you in your colour selection. So I'm just doing exactly the same. Now what I love about this green, I don't know if you can see on here, but that green automatically makes the green, mossy green colour in my cabochon pop. Makes the colour pop. Now the other thing that it does is when you're building up these cabochons, you know. We're going to make this into a pendant. When you're building them up, you could make a really tiny cabochon look quite large. And what you do is you just create a bit of an optical illusion with all of these rows of seed beads. And it's as simple as that. Now, I've made a slight mistake. I've gone through the previous bead, which I always think it's good to show you mistakes, but I've just threaded that through and I'm just reinforcing like I did before. Sorry, I'm going slightly off piste. And if I'd love for you guys to resurface some of your bead embroidery pieces, some of you that have done it, and pop them in our sister group Beaders of Beads by Virtue. And perhaps if you've got some cabochons that you've got in your stash, whether you've done bead embroidery or not, is perhaps you can post some pictures of your cabochons so that we can all drool over the cabochons that you've got, and we can all sort of bounce some ideas as well. Perhaps you might already have some ideas. I've actually got the most gorgeous Ruby and Zoisite cabochon that was given to me by a very lovely lady that will possibly be watching now or later, and I cannot wait to have time to actually make something with it. So it's all pretty much the same, so it's building up quite nicely. Is that colour coming through on your screens, or is it quite dark? Right, I will go back and look at your details or your comments after. So I thought what we'd do this week is, if any of you haven't done bead embroidery before, we are just literally covering the basics in it. And just with the basics, you can still get something really wonderful. And we can build on it. And if you want to dip your toes in the water a little bit more, and you don't want to wait till the next tutorial, just hop on to my YouTube channel and go on there and look at some of the bead embroidery tutorials, or you could treat yourself to one of the kits that I've got as well. So we've got bees, hedgehogs. We don't have cabochons in those. They're sort of very much designs that I've done that are kind of free design, and what I mean by that is, I've designed it so that it goes in different directions to enhance the actual figure that you're making. So I've got hedgehogs, what else have I got? Peacocks, dragonfly, bees, and all of these basic techniques are what we use in it. I like that tip, Carol. Carol is saying when reinforcing 4 seed beads, she goes back 5 to eliminate any gaps. Great tip. Right. Now, sometimes what happens is it can get a little bit distorted around the teardrop part. Now I am going to reinforce all the way around. Now I'm going to just bring that seed bead up a little bit, and I've just stitched slightly back so that I can just bring that out a bit, and then we're going to push our needle all the way around. Now with the E6000 you can rest easy the fact that your cabochon is, or should be, safe if you've glued it properly. It is a 24-hour set time, but you can work it, well, within 5 minutes, as you could see. Now I'm going to do another row, so take a nosedive down the back, and I'll also talk you through how we cut it, some of the top tips. We've still got plenty of time. Right, so we stitch about 1 millimetre away again. Now I am going to use this time, now what do I want? Do I want green? I think I'm going to go for another green. This is the AB green. Not sure if that's going to work, so I'm just going to lay that by the side, pop that back, and I'm going to try these as well. No, I'm going for the silver line purple. So I'm going to do another round. It's exactly the same technique. Now I have to confess, for E6000 I haven't found a supplier. I'm definitely not ordering it from China, because they tend to have their alternative, and I don't know how that works. So it varies quite greatly, the actual cost of it, because I think it comes from the US. So the best bet personally is to go on eBay and order it, and order a bigger tube, because you can get through it quite quickly. Make sure you don't keep it in the sunlight, because it will harden. And a top tip that one of the ladies in the group gave here as well is, if you have some Vaseline, maybe a little tub that you've got left over of lip balm, is after every use of your E6000 is wipe the top down with your Vaseline, and that stops the lid from sealing. Right, question for you all. Shall we make this into a pendant, or shall we make it into a brooch? Yeah, it's such a good price, isn't it, Linda? I mean, it can change from time to time depending on, I suppose, you know, what the exchange rate is, probably on people buying it from America. But so it's not cost effective for me to stock it, if that makes sense. So I'd sooner tell you where you can go and buy it. You can also buy like the multi-packs of the little ones. Now, one of the nice things as well about using, I know we're using the same size seed beads this week, but next week when you use different sizes, you'll be able to see that it creates this like really nice indentation as well. Right, but is there anybody that hasn't tried it that is feeling inspired to try it? Now, if you're doing it for the first time and you don't really want to invest in the stuff, you want to see if you like it, then there's no reason just on a test piece. If you could always use your glue gun on your test piece, as long as it's not something, it's just something you want to try out. You could always use your cotton. You could try it on a stiff piece of fabric, but I wouldn't advise you do it for anything other than a test piece. And there are some absolutely wonderful shaped beads, different shaped beads that you can use in bead embroidery. I must admit, it feels really nice doing this. Oh, your delivery hasn't arrived yet. Oh, I'm so sorry. Royal Mail have got, oh dear. Your fingers must be itching, Maxine, to try and get going with that. There's nothing worse, is there? Right, so come in. I think I've got, oh yeah, we've got a few more of those left. Right, the question is, will I, yeah, I think I'll fit another one in. But you intend to. Brilliant. I've also got, I think, one more. I've half priced my bead embroidery essential packs. I've only got one left. You can either buy it online or here in the group, and it's got 2 lots of the beading foundation. It's got some of the faux backing. It's got your Nymo threading, and it's got 10 size 10 beading needles. So, you know, you've got everything at hand for that. Right, so I'm just going all the way around. Oh yes, I've done some shibori silk with bead embroidery before. Maxine has got some some shibori silk and would like to incorporate it. For those of you that haven't seen it, oh, it's glorious. It's almost like it's got all of these, like, it's almost got like a little folds in it, and the textures of it just make it so glorious for bead embroidery. Now, one thing that bothers me on this one is that little bit at the top, so I'm going to show you a little trick. If there's something that you want to pop out a little bit, if that makes sense. That sounds rather rude, doesn't it? Not intended that way. It's typical of me. Is stitch underneath and do a horizontal stitch. So pull it out like that. So it's just made that sit that little bit better. That's good advice. Kim is saying don't use super glue because it burns the backing and doesn't do well with the cabochons. Do you know, Kim, I found the same with a glue called Zap It glue. And I found that that was the same, and it created this like white filmy substance on my cabochons as well. Now this is how to finish off at the back, is go underneath the thread bars, pick up about 2 mils of the foundation. I'm just going to go back round, do the same again, but this time I'm going to tie a knot in there. And then I'm going to go a bit further along under one of the thread bars. Do this in 2 to 3 different places. I'm going to stitch along. How are we doing for time? 1/4 to. Brilliant. So it gives us just enough time. Now I know there's a few bits that I haven't got out that I should have done. I'm just going to finish off by pushing that under and trim off. Let's push that to one side. I'm frozen. Oh dear, that's not good. I'm back now. Oh, bonus. Samantha hasn't tried it yet but intends to. Pendant brooch. So what have we got so far? 2 pendants. Okay, Right, it's for the pendant at the moment, if we get any more. Okay, cutting. Turn it over. Nice sharp scissors, like little bead embroidery or nail scissors, and cut. But the reason why I cut on the back is so that you don't cut through your stitching. Now, top tip, it's always a good idea to have needle and thread with a knot at the bottom ready, just in case you do cut through it, so that you can very quickly just stitch all of those loose beads back in. So turn it over, you can still see that, so I'm going to turn it back and I'm going to trim. So trim as close as you can without getting affecting any of those beads. Now I can see what I'm going to do. You chat amongst yourselves. I'm just going to get something to colour in the white, a decent coloured backing foundation and a pendant veil. So banter some ideas between you while I'm doing that. I think we'll go for that's a glue veil. You can stitch it as well, but I just think it looks a bit better. Let's give you one of those as well, just to show you what it looks like. Right, nearly done. I'm glad it stands out okay with on the camera as well. Right, so Sharpie pens, absolute brilliant to have, or permanent pens. So what I do on your scraps is just use your scraps to see which colour would be closest. Now I think that one is closer, or just scribble it on the back where you're not going to see it. And it kind of bothers me a little bit, the white, so what I do is I colour in the white with a colour that's as close as possible. Do your best not to colour in the seed beads, but this all helps to create a better finish. Some people actually colour it in beforehand. Just going to cut. I do hope I haven't cut any of the stitches off. We'll soon find out. Okay, got it everywhere. Oh, you're very welcome, Dot. Dot's saying that thank you for the tips, and it's her first time she's been able to watch live. It's been lovely to have you join. Right. Now, I've got a little bit of paper because I don't actually want to get glue on my mat. So what I'm using is Ultra Suede. It is my favourite to use, but if you're doing a lot, it's a lot cheaper to buy I'm just trying to think what it's called. It's like faux suede and faux leather that I've actually got in stock as well. It's on my website. Always, I wouldn't recommend felt, because felt is horrible against the skin. You've got to bear that in mind. Now I'm just tying my hair back from experience. I always tend to glue my hair, which is not a good look. It really isn't, especially when you've got long hair. Right, so on the back, just putting a dab of glue. I'm going right up to the edges. Again, don't overdo it. You know, you want enough to secure it, but you don't want an oil slick either. Just putting that at an angle so I haven't got quite as much to cut at the top. Now the Body Shop chamomile cleanser is fantastic for getting the glue off your fingers. So I'd leave that for about 10 minutes, but I'm being very impatient today, so we're going to go straight into cutting. So you can cut from the front with this one. If you happen to cut any of your coloured foundation off, you can obviously just re-pencil that in. Okay, right, now I didn't do a very good job of cutting there, did I? How not to do it. Never mind. You see my mistakes and all. Now I've got a little bit of glue left there. Now this is a little bail, they're like little spoons, and I'm going to just put a dab of glue on there. So I'm going to lay that down. I wouldn't use it on paper normally, but it's what I've got around. And then line it up. Oops, sorry, I'm off camera there. Getting in a right little mess. Me and glue aren't the best together. We're not the best of friends. So that is where you would put your chain through. So if you were going to do a brooch back, then I would douse the back in glue, turn it over, and then fix that onto the back. So before we go, let me know what your thoughts are. You know, perhaps it's just giving you a little bit of inspiration to get your bead embroidery out if you've done it before. Don't forget to check out all of the accessories that I've got on my website and also on here as well. Right, I'm just going to show you only a few of the kits that I've got in bead embroidery as well. And so you've got the hedgehog. I've got a hedgehog in 3 colorways. This is all using that technique. This is a slightly different technique on the top for his little spikes, but it's all literally in the instructions. My little mousey. Literally all of that is using the same technique as we've learned today, and in the kit it's all step by step. And this one, which is a dragonfly. Now we spoke about delica beads earlier on. These are delicas at slightly different shapes, slightly different cut, which catches the light. And I was talking to you about using different coloured beads. Now this is a Czechoslovakian bead. This is what they call bullion wire here. And these are little diamante. Oh gosh, I can't think what they're, but it's like a chain that you stitch over it. So, but the thing is, what we've done today is we've learnt all of the basics to give you some confidence, hopefully, to either strive a little bit further, dip your toes in, experiment in a few more things. Maybe it's you're going to be a little bit bolder with your colours. Sometimes colours come naturally to people, sometimes it's things that you have to work at. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to show you my bee. Hang on one second. That's one of the other kits I've got as well, the mini bee. I've also got stamps in them as well. So you know the stamps that you would use in card making? I've actually got stamps for bees, for the hedgehog, for the peacock, for the hummingbird, so that you can make multiple ones as well. So perhaps you might want to buy a kit to get used to how you position all of your beads, and you can buy the actual stamp as well so that you can make more of them. But I hoped you enjoyed it. So next week we're going to be dipping our toes in a few more things, looking at different size needles, looking at making a peyote. So thank you for joining, and I will see you very soon. So happy new year to you all as well, because it will be new year when we all speak again, won't it? Love the mouse. I know, little mousie's so cute. Anyway, take care everyone. Bye.